Welcome to Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant. This is episode 3. I am your host, Jamie Massey. And on this podcast, we celebrate and support those women in their pregnancy journey by sharing women's stories who are pregnant in their 40s. While we do discuss medical treatments and pharmaceuticals sometimes, we are not doctors. These are women's experiences and should not be taken as medical advice. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to thank everybody for all the support I've received from the podcast. I am working really hard in the background to get up a website and an email. I have a full-time job and we're renovating the house and we have animals, but I want to help as many women as possible and I want to give as much value as I can while I grow this podcast. So, and stay tuned. Surgery went well. I am still bleeding a little. No, actually, I know I'm just still bleeding. The surgery was a week ago and I'm still bleeding just in time to start my cycle. I'm on birth control by doctor's orders. We signed up for IVF. I am excited and nervous all at the same time, but that'll be the end of that for a while. Let's get in today's episode. We have Misty. She is a good friend of mine, and she gave birth at 40. Her pregnancy journey was kind of a rocky one, honestly. She had COVID and she fell. They moved. She had gestational diabetes and a few other bumps along the way. But it's a beautiful story that almost had me in tears. She tells the beautiful story of how she came up with names for her little girl. And she tells a story of how she told her husband that she was pregnant. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. She also gave me quite a few links to products that we talk about in this episode. So if you're interested in that, I do have them listed in the show notes for you. Also with this episode, we have a few disclaimers. And the first one is going to be that she did have a miscarriage and we talk about it in this episode. So just so you know, if you're sensitive to that, we do talk about it. And the second disclaimer is we did have audio problems. It sounds like Misty is in a can a few times, but you can still hear her just fine. So hopefully this will be the only show that has that audio issue. But let's get in today's show. And Misty, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're on. Me and Misty have known each other for quite some time, but the last I heard, you were in Little Elm and you aren't anymore.
No, thank you for having me. No, we are in Gardner, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City. We moved here, probably 3 years now, 4 years. And to be close to family, my family's in Topeka. And I work in Kansas City and in Lenexa. I work for an architecture and engineering firm. I'm a registered interior designer. My husband works in the general area as well. And yeah, we have our 2 dogs and our baby girl now, who's 7 weeks old.
Congratulations. She's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am 40. I'm about to be 41 actually next week.
Yay. Happy early birthday.
Thank you. So yeah.
So tell me about your getting pregnancy story.
Okay. So we knew we wanted to try to get pregnant. It was just a matter of when. And so we got married about 4 years ago, and
in Hawaii. It looked beautiful.
Yes. Thank you. And we decided, oh, well, maybe we'll wait a year or two before we try. So once we did decide we wanted to start trying, I got off birth control, and we figured whatever happens, happens. But I want to be honest, we probably weren't as consistent as we probably should have been.
With birth
So
control
when I
or
say
what?
no, with trying,
Oh.
like we probably could have tried a little harder or a little more, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like planning it
But
out.
yeah, and really making more of an effort, more frequent. Um, but I also didn't know, like, my cycle as far as when I was ovulating and all of that. So I figured, to help us out, I should probably start tracking that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really helped us, is to know when I was ovulating. That way we could really plan as far as to increase our chances, make sure we were having sex at the right time,
What did you use to track your ovulation?
I had an app, and I think it was called the Glow app.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that. And then, in addition, then, that's like what I would input all my information. I would I just went to like Walgreens and bought, ovulation kits.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure I always had those on hand. And those were great. And I tried cheaper ones, to try to save some money. And I'll be honest, with my experience, they didn't work all the time, and I got frustrated. So therefore I ever since I had a couple that, were defective or whatnot and all that, I decided I was just gonna, spend the money on some of the better brand name ones. And I never had issues with those. So.
What didn't work? Was it just not?
I kept getting the defect. Like, you'll get a little error code if it's a digital one, or it won't give you a result at all, if it's a non-digital.
Oh, that sucks.
No matter how much you pee on it or whatnot,
Yeah.
So, and then I'm like, well, is it too much or this or that? But yeah, so I had a couple defective ones, and it's frustrating, So I decided, and then ever since I switched, I found a brand that worked for me that I liked, and I ran with it. So I made sure I always had those on hand, and those were great, and they were I'd say they were probably pretty accurate. So that helped us. I did end up, well, and I also let my doctor know that we were trying, and she said the number one thing, try not to be stressed, which is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But if you can really reduce your stress, I really, really believe that stress can really mess with a lot of things. So as long as you can really try to reduce that, I really think that helps chances.
So how long were you trying before you started like the ovulation kits?
Probably just a couple months.
Oh, okay. Not too far.
Yeah. No, not too far. I'd say maybe 4 months ish. So, and my doctor's opinion was, if you guys try for 6 months to a year and we're not successful, then at that point, due to our age, my doctor's recommendation was maybe to start looking at other things we might be able to do, because that might be telling us that we're not being effective with things. Just because we know, risks of everything, the older you get, your chances go up. But, yeah, we ended up, we did end up getting pregnant, and I had a miscarriage.
So how long did it take you to get pregnant the first time?
It was probably a year, a little over a
Okay.
year and a half, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, and part of that isn't true. We were trying like full force, we probably didn't really do the full force, really tried until maybe, like I said, 6 months into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but, again, we're newbies. Neither of us had done this before. And so I didn't know how much, and I didn't want to stress myself out by doing too much planning,
Yeah. You mean
and constantly.
you've never done it before? You've never gotten pregnant before?
Correct.
Okay.
Or tried to get pregnant. Yes. Yeah. So,
I know we spend so long trying to not get pregnant. Then when it's on, you're like, wait, what do we do?
I know, right?
Yeah. Is this okay?
Yeah. So we ended up a little after a year, we ended up getting pregnant. And I knew because I had missed a period and I was late,
Mm-hmm.
and I went and bought a test, an at-home test, and it was positive.
Cool. So you only did one test and you believed it? Because I had to take 3.
No, I did too.
Okay. Yeah.
I did too, just to be sure.
Yeah. One's never enough.
I know. Well, you just never know. Like I said, sometimes those tests can be faulty, and sometimes you just want that reassurance.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I really wasn't 100% sure until I actually went into the doctor.
I feel
that
the
was
same
kind
way.
Of that was kind of the official.
Uh-huh.
So,
yeah, I felt like I needed concrete confirmation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This test is whatever. Tell me, I need something real.
Yeah, official.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and go ahead.
Was this the miscarriage that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how long before were you into this pregnancy when you miscarried?
Let's see. So I was 6 weeks is what they think.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't find out until I went in for my appointment, my doctor's appointment, which was at 9 or 10 weeks, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went in for that sonogram, that was the first sonogram. I'll never forget, we were both in there, my husband and I, and they were trying to find the heartbeat first. They do the Doppler first, and we were doing that, and she couldn't find a heartbeat. She couldn't hear it. Like, we couldn't hear anything. And that was concerning. And usually you can, but not all the time. And so she said, well, let's do an official sonogram, let's go ahead and get to the sonogram. And so we did that, and they confirmed that, there was no movement, or, I couldn't hear heartbeat or any of that. And they should have been able to by then. But the sonogrammist was able to identify, based on the size at that time, probably when I had officially miscarried. So, when, I guess I hadn't miscarried yet because the baby was still in me, but anyways, that would have been around 6 weeks. She said the baby was only about the size of a 6-week-old. So, and then since I did not pass the baby naturally and miscarry, naturally like that, we had to she prescribed me some medication, and I did that at home.
Oh.
She gave me the option. I could either do that or I could go into the ER and or hospital and have the D&C done.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose. I wanted to try to just pass it naturally if I could.
Yeah.
So, and I will say I'm very thankful. My mom was there to help me through that. So that was really, really nice because I had no clue what to expect, and it was very painful for me.
Oh.
Physically, mentally, all of the above, you know.
How long
So,
was it just like a heavy period?
yes, very, very, very heavy. Clotting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just coming out and heavy cramping. My periods were never really, very heavy and very strong as far as cramping. I've been very blessed in those regards. I've
Mm-hmm.
had a few, so I knew what it felt like, but this was just, yeah, on steroids, you know,
Mm-hmm.
heightened tenfold. So, and even to the point where like I had really, really bad back pain, you know,
Whoa.
just crazy. You wouldn't think, but, it's acting, you know, your body, the doctor said your body's thinking that it's essentially having a baby,
Yeah.
you know? And they say that a lot of times that happens. You have really bad back pain with that. No joke. And mine was so bad. I was having muscle spasms, and I needed, like, I could barely walk actually at one point, and I didn't know what to do. And so I called the doctor, and she said, I'm gonna give you, I think it was a type of muscle relaxer,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped relax and loosen it up so I could like actually walk normal, like just walking to the toilet, you know, I could barely do without being in just absolutely excruciating pain. And I couldn't like stand up 100% straight and stuff. So,
And do you think that was because of the medicine, or was it just what your body was going through?
I think it was a combination of both. Uh, um, because the medicine naturally will try to cramp you, is what the doctor told me.
Oh.
Um, and they say when you take the medicine, it a lot of times it it's probably more likely going to be more painful. Like you're going to have more cramping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be heightened.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's, you know, what the doctor had said. So, and I believe it, but I didn't really have anything to compare it to, you know?
Right.
So I believe it's part of what, I mean, you're going to just naturally probably go through that. Cause that's just the process, you know? I
Right.
mean, having a baby, it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
Think of all the changes and everything that's going on with your body, but then in addition to taking the medication. But I will say, I mean, again, I've never had a D&C. I don't know those ropes, but being at least at home in my own home,
Yeah.
you know, and being able to just relax and do what I needed to do, you know, taking a hot shower really helped, you know, it didn't matter if I was bleeding or not, and it helped relax my muscles. You know, it was just, yeah, I'm happy I did it the way I did it. So,
Yeah, you're just more comfortable at home regardless.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, yeah,
Well, let's get to the good part.
yeah.
When do we find out you're pregnant with Addie?
Okay, well, so we waited. That was tough emotionally, you know,
Yeah.
physically and emotionally. Both my husband and I decided that we would wait a little bit. Plus, well, it's recommended. Um, you know, your body needs to heal a little bit, you know, from all of that. And we decided we wanted to wait a little while.
Mhm.
So we waited, well, it was close to a year
Wow.
before we really I didn't feel like it. But yeah, 6 months to a year before we really kind of full force again, started trying again.
Hmm.
Um, and
And that was just emotionally, you weren't ready to start.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think a little bit too, we had some other things just socially in our social life, going on too, but it was mainly just really, emotionally again. We both said, okay, we're ready.
Mhm.
And I think that was, 8 to 12 months later. So,
Now, had you already moved to Kansas by this time?
oh yes, all of this was done here in Kansas.
Okay.
So when I said my mom helped me out, we had been living with them because we had bought some land and we were going to build. And in the meantime, we were living with them. So when I had miscarried, when I got pregnant, and when I miscarried, we were there. So it was really nice to like I said, have her support and have her there. And one of my best friends, all time best friends, she's still in Topeka too. We've been best friends and known each other since middle school. Um, I had moved to Texas. I grew up in Topeka and moved to Texas, and so she was there, and it was nice to have her support too. I've always had her support, but to have her physically be able to stop by,
Yeah, that's really
was nice.
nice.
So yeah. So we decided to wait. We were ready again then, like I said, about 8 months to a year later. And at that point, we had moved to Kansas City, and gotten a rental. So that way we decided, we both worked in the Kansas City area. We were in Topeka. COVID had hit. And so that put a halt on us building our house. And we didn't want to waste money on the gas, and gas prices were going up and all of that. So we had gotten a rental house. Um, so I would say not long, we moved in September, and let's see, it would have been the middle of September, September 15th, I believe it is. And for Thanksgiving, we usually come back to Texas, because my in-laws are still in Texas, and we usually spend Thanksgiving there. And then coming back like the week after, we had our anniversary after that, and we found out we were pregnant Christmas Eve. I found out, and I told him.
Oh, that's fun.
And I told him Christmas Day. So,
did you do anything special?
Yes. So we have our two dogs. We have a male German Shepherd, Triton, and a female yellow lab, Daisy. And those are our fur babies, since we don't have any human babies.
They are.
And I had gotten some bandanas made that said, or ordered, whatever, that had said Big Brother and Big Sister.
That's cute.
And so I had used those previously as well when we had gotten pregnant before, to announce it to him. And I figured, well, we just moved. I wondered if I could find them. I spent all night that night hunting for them. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta find them. And I finally found them, thank goodness. And so that made it easy, because I thought what cool of a special way to do it would be, to a good Christmas present for my hubby. So
yeah.
So I put those back on the dogs the morning of Christmas, and he was waking up. I woke up before him, and he was waking up, and I was like, oh, don't the dogs look cute? And he's like, yeah, they always look cute. He goes, and I go, yeah, they're cute in their bandanas, huh? And he's like, yeah, they are. But he didn't say anything. And I'm thinking, and I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, why do you have them on? And I was like, well, what do they say? And he goes, well, Big Brother, Big Sister. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, he wasn't putting two and two together again. I think he was in shock, and I was like, maybe because they're going to be a big brother and big sister. And he looked at me and he goes, "Really? Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Come on, Justin, get with it.
I know. So, yeah, it came as a surprise and shock. So, well, really to both of us, but I thought that was pretty funny. So
that's cute.
But we both then were feeling cruddy. We actually couldn't even do our Christmas plans. We were in Kansas City, like I said, in our new rental house. And my family's in Topeka. My brother and sister-in-law and niece and nephew always come down from Minnesota for Christmas. And usually, like, the week after is when we do our Christmas with them. But they usually come and we'll all stay at my mom and dad's. And they were coming, and we could not partake in Christmas with them because we had come down, both Justin and I, full-fledged with full-blown COVID.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And
so you're pregnant with COVID.
Exactly. And in the early stages, right? And so that really worried me.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah. But, there wasn't a whole lot I could do but just try to take care of myself. And like I said, we had gotten COVID before that, so we didn't even know we were pregnant at the time when we first were diagnosed with it. But it took us a good 2 weeks to really get back to normal after having COVID. He had gotten symptoms and had it first, and then a couple days later I would get and have the same kind of symptoms then. So it's like I was a couple days behind him and everything. And between the two of us and really both of us more or less had more or less all of the symptoms and all that. So we were both kind of sicker than dogs, but anyhow, and then I ended up, so we're stuck in the house, right? And we have our dogs and we have a rug in our living room, and I was playing with the dogs and slipped and fell. And I was really worried. And I actually pulled, like I fell to the point where I pretty much like did the splits, and I pulled my buttocks and hammy, and I pulled it to the point where like had to have hyper extended it. I didn't tear anything. We don't think, because I could still get up and get on it, but barely. Like, we had some old crutches, and he got me up and going. I was pretty much out of commission. He had to help me to the bathroom, all of that, until I could actually kind of walk with crutches on my own again. And that was maybe a couple days.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So, and then I was all, again, I was worried and scared. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here I had COVID. I had this fall, and I was pregnant, and I didn't, I was worried. And of course, being all new to me, and you can't feel the baby yet at that time and all that, it's like, am I still pregnant? Am I not? And because with the miscarriage, I didn't like have any signs or symptoms, and I didn't pass it naturally, I didn't know if that was going to happen again.
Yeah. But were you worried that you were going to miscarry again? Because that was the only thing going through my mind the second time.
Yes. And I didn't know if I had already. And that's what I'm getting at, is because my body didn't give me any symptoms last time that had happened. And so I was worried, really, really worried this time. Really I'll be honest, throughout the whole pregnancy, until I could feel the baby moving, I was really, really worried about that. Because clearly my body, didn't show symptoms when it had happened. And so I was worried, maybe I'm still thinking I'm pregnant and I'm not, but
yeah, you're like, give me a sign.
Yes.
I'll take the throwing up, because that's proof.
Yeah. Well, and guess what? I did not. I actually was very blessed. I did not get sick, not once. as far as
Ooh.
throwing up. And I'd like to cop that to be maybe hereditary. I don't know if they've proven stuff. I'd asked my doctor about that, and they said, yeah, a lot of times, we think it might be. But I'd asked my mom, and my mom had me and my brother, and she said she didn't have any morning sickness with either of us when she was pregnant with us.
Oh.
So, I'd like to think maybe she passed that on to me. So that was a blessing in disguise. I know some women, some of my friends who had it, and it was miserable. It made the pregnancy miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I would agree with you. Just some kind of sign. So those uh, doctor's appointments
Uh-huh.
were my, like, I could not wait because those were my confirmation.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
and this go around, so took the home test, and actually he asked me, he goes, well, did you take more than one test to confirm? Like, he still, I think, was shocked and couldn't believe it. And I said, yeah, here, babe, I'll show you. And I had both tests and I showed him. Um, and uh and then, of course, I said, I have a doctor's appointment, and that'll confirm it. And of course it did. But uh, they, at that point, wanted to schedule me and get me in sooner. Like, when I called, I had told them, hey, I had a miscarriage, about a year ago, and I didn't even know that I had miscarried because my body didn't do anything, right? We didn't find out till almost 4 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted me to come in earlier than normal. Because
Mm-hmm.
normally that doctor, they don't schedule anything until like the very end of your first trimester ish, like between 10 and 12 weeks. And she wanted me to come in earlier, especially because of the history. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, so we did, and we confirmed, and yeah.
So after that, after your fall, it sounds like your pregnancy was pretty easy from there on out.
Um, for let's see, the first trimester, yes. Second trimester, everything was great. And I'll be honest, one of my things is, I'm a little heavier and very muscular, and I'm short. And so I was very worried, like, I'm like, when am I going to start showing? Like, again, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted signs, and I wanted, I
Mm-hmm.
and I'd asked the doctor, and I'd looked up online, when do you start feeling the baby or feeling something? Um, and everybody's different, but I had a feeling I was probably going to be later on everything. And sure enough, I was, because I would go into my doctor's appointments throughout the second trimester, and we could hear the baby heartbeat. I had the sonogram. We could see the baby. The baby was very active. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And but I couldn't feel any of that. And the doctors always asked, and I'm just like, oh, and they said I ended up having what they call like a top placenta. And
Uh-huh.
so they said it might take longer just because of that for you to feel, because you got the extra layer, you got that extra barrier between, you and the baby, the outside, like your tummy. Um,
Uh-huh.
and it did, because they said, oh, you should probably start feeling something maybe around, I don't know, anywhere as early as 14 weeks. And then, up until when you get what is it, week 18 to 20 week, sonogram done. And anywhere in between there, depending on your schedule. That's another kind of milestone, typical pregnancy milestone. And I realistically did not feel anything. When I say feel something in the beginning, they tell you, and this is what I experienced, was, for me, it was like fluttering.
Huh.
It's not like kicks or punches right away or anything like that. It wasn't like that for me. I couldn't see anything on my belly. Some women say they can see like a hand pushing out or, this or that, or an elbow or something. Or they could see movement on their tummy. And I didn't have any of that until later. But the beginning for me, so I may have felt something sooner than what I really thought, but then I realized that fluttering got a lot stronger. And then I realized, oh, that is the baby moving that I'm feeling. And that's what the doctor was saying. So, and that was later.
So it was like maybe gas or like some gurgling in there or something like that.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, you just almost feel, and kind of off. Like, I mean, it wasn't like nausea or anything. It's just kind of motion sicknessy sort of, or, when you feel, I don't know, like merry-go-round, you spin around, and then you stop and you kind of have that, your body, you can feel throughout your whole body, just kind of that movement, not the dizziness, but the movement, I don't know. That's, I guess, kind of that, but yeah, and it literally feels like, a little flutter, like literally butterflies fluttering inside your tummy, inside you, a little movement in there, just a little bit, but not punches or kicks or anything like that, or flipping. I mean, maybe, so I guess that's the best way I can describe it. I'm not very good at that, but
it doesn't sound like it's a bad thing.
No. Oh no. Mm-mm. No. But until I realized what it was, since I'd never been pregnant before at that point, I didn't realize it. I probably was feeling it a little sooner than I really realized, that's what that was, that feeling. So, and just being more aware. So,
yeah, you're probably kind of looking for it at that point.
And we decided to do a baby moon vacation.
Fun.
And we didn't want to go very far. We really wanted to go to Hawaii, but I said, second trimester, I really don't want to be that far away. I really don't want to be on the plane that long, all this and that.
Yeah.
So we decided, we just went to the Florida Keys. But before then, had felt a kick at that point, or a punch or whatever. And I would feel the baby most active, at night, a little bit during the day when I was at work, but not much. It was mainly at night. And I really wanted my husband to feel that. And so when I would feel it, then I'd be like, hey, Justin, come here, and I'd have him put his hand on my belly or whatnot or whatever, and say, can you feel that? And then the baby wouldn't move, at that point, or the baby, because I can't tell him to come until I'm feeling something. And then by the time he gets there, then nothing. He's like, oh, the baby knows I'm here, so it's not moving now. And I'm like, well, if it's moving, I can't feel it at least. But I said no. And so on vacation, it was really sweet. I'll never forget. We were it was the first night we were there, and we were crawling. We got ready for bed, and we were crawling into bed, and him and I were talking, about like our next day and stuff. And we do kind of our nighttime talk. And I was like, oh, babe, I go, here, give me your hand. I said, the baby's moving. I can feel it. And so then he got to feel the baby for the first time. And he actually felt it. And it was a strong kick. And he's like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah. I go, you felt that, huh? And he goes, yeah. Like, I think that's what really made it surreal for him. So.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But really, in second trimester, the only thing I really had was, I had heartburn. Really bad heartburn. I was popping, smoothie Tums almost the whole time. Every day. And they say that that's okay. I made sure with the doctor. The doctor gave me a list of medications and a little cheat sheet thing, little tiny little pocket one that I could keep in my wallet, that are kind of the approved if you do need, an antacid, or if you do had it broken down by, type of ailment or whatever, and what you could take, or what they recommend you can take, right? That's safe. So, yeah, so that's really the only thing I had during the second trimester as far as, sickness or anything like that. Cravings, I'll say it's a real thing. I was wondering if
Is it?
or at least for me. And I didn't think I'm a foodie and I like food anyways, but, and I like a variety of stuff, and I'm like, oh, I doubt I'll have actual cravings, but oh my gosh, I craved salads like you wouldn't believe. And I'm like, yes, this is a good thing to crave. I know. Thanks. And I'm thinking maybe that was my body's way of telling me, because they say cravings in general, well, not necessarily the sugar cravings, but a lot of times in general, like if you crave stuff like that, that's your body's way of saying you need that, like if you crave a vegetable or a fruit or something like that. But I craved salads, and we found this little pizzeria place, mom and pop place that we absolutely loved, and they had the best salads that I like for me. And so we would go there and I would get the salads. And then I also craved, there's a place here. I don't know if they have them there in Texas, but it's called Andy's Frozen Custard. They're kind of like,
I think we do.
Do you have those?
I think so.
I never knew they existed. We found out we had one right down the street from our house one day, and we decided to try it. And I absolutely love their chocolate shakes and their peanut butter shakes. And oh my gosh, I crave those two things. I had to, and I don't crave sweet things. I'm more of a salty person. But when I was pregnant, oh man, I craved it. And I wouldn't do a whole one, but I always had to have one of those shakes in the freezer and on hand. And that would be kind of my little dessert after dinner. And I would just have a little bit of it. And 2 of those in the freezer would last me a week and a half.
Nice.
Or so.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah, so yummy. And we're talking, I was pregnant in the thick of summer, right? A good chunk, like
it's hot,
starting to get like really pregnant, right? And when it's hot. And so trying to cool yourself down. And I did swell, but I tend to swell naturally anyways. If I overheat or get too hot. But I didn't start swelling until, so my due date was August 29th, and I didn't really start swelling until end of May, June, pretty much when it really started getting hot. So just a couple months out from my due date. And the closer you get to your due date, for me anyways, and the doctor had warned me, she said, you'll probably start retaining water, and you're probably going to swell more, and it's really going to be in your ankles and your feet. And I'm thinking, because I hadn't already. I thought the whole pregnancy I would like really blow up, And I was worried because I'm short. I was already, I'm already just a little heavier, and I was worried about gaining weight and gaining too much weight and how that would affect me and my body, and the baby and all of that, just not being healthy. But I didn't gain hardly any weight, she said, compared to what she's seen some women gain. And I didn't gain it like super fast either. And realistically, I was, more or less eating and drinking, other than the chocolate peanut butter shakes. I was more or less eating and drinking the same stuff, minus the alcohol, of course. But So, I was
And your salads.
yeah, but I was eating more salads and vegetables. So, that was a plus for me, technically.
That's great. It
Yeah.
sounds like an overall pretty easy pregnancy.
Yeah, now I was going to tell you at the end of pregnancy is when it got a little dicier for me. At the beginning of the third trimester, end of the second, it kind of depends on your doctor. Anywhere from like 24 to 30 weeks. It's recommended, and you do a glucose test. You have to drink the sugary drink to see if you've developed gestational diabetes, which is what they call diabetes when you're pregnant, because a lot of women don't ever have diabetes in their life, pre or post, but they do get it when they're pregnant, and that's what they call that. And they tested me. They give you the drink. They give it to you to take home, and then for your next appointment, and then you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to drink it. You're supposed to fast the night before. Drink it 2 hours before your doctor's appointment. Or sorry, I don't know the exact time. Maybe not 2 hours. I can't remember the exact thing. But a certain amount of time before your appointment. Maybe it was 30 minutes or something like that. But you're supposed to start kind of paying attention and charting different things. I could take my medication if you had any medication. I have an underactive thyroid, so it was okay for me to take my thyroid medication, which I did throughout the whole pregnancy. But I did the glucose stuff, go to my appointment, tell them they take your blood work. That came back and it said my levels were really, really high, like skyrocketing high. She said, you have gestational diabetes. So I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And she said, really, it's not the end of the world. It happens a lot. We just have to monitor. We just need to get it under control, But she said, but just to double check, that first test can be positive, and then a lot of times they want to test you again just to verify. And so that's when you stay there, she said, at the doctor's. They do a baseline blood work, and then you drink the sugary drink, and they make you stay there for 2 hours, and then they take your blood again to see how you metabolize it. I was not even given the opportunity to do that. And I actually cried a little bit because I was pretty emotional because, again, I was freaked out when I first heard about that. I didn't really know how common it was or how or what that was going to affect, right? And I was in shock when she had first told me, but and I didn't understand why I didn't get the opportunity to do that test. And she came back and said, your levels were like double what they should have been. And she goes, so there's no question you have it. Really, we only do that second test, to give people the opportunity for their bodies to metabolize it. And, like if they're borderline or they're close, she goes, you weren't even close. And so I just had to, once I could process that and accept that, then I was okay. And just hearing and knowing more. Well, what does this entail? What do I have to do? How does this affect the baby? How does this affect me? And so once the doctor gave me all the information, then it was less stressful as far as that goes. But so then I had to go to the doctor. So let me tell you this: some doctors will, if you are a certain age, they will classify you as high risk, right? So you will have to, then some doctors will make you go to a high risk doctor, and you'll have high risk doctor appointments, and you'll have your regular OBGYN appointments.
Oh, did you have that?
I did not in the beginning.
Oh.
One of my best friends, she had her 2 girls at the age in her high 30s, like she was 37. And was she 39? 30, no, they're 2 years apart, I think. 30, yeah, maybe 36 and 38. And her doctor classified her from the beginning when she first found out she was pregnant as high risk because of her age, because she was over 35, I think. And her doctor said, okay, well, so then that meant she had to go to a high-risk doctor, and she had to go so often, and she had her regular OB appointments. And so that was really frustrating, and I remembered her saying that, so I was worried and concerned I was going to have to do that. It's one of the questions I asked in the very beginning when I found out I was pregnant. And my doctor, OB, had said, no, because really, other than your age, they said, until you give us a reason to think that you're actually high risk, other than that, she said, we're not going to worry about it, there's no reason to, unless you have something come up, with your pregnancy. So I only ever had my regular OB appointments until I got diagnosed with the gestational. In addition to that, one of our sonograms, I think it was, it was 20, I guess it was before the gestational, I think it was 22 weeks, 22 to 24. It was close, not long after. The two were pretty close, but that you can do a detailed sonogram. And because of my age, they do recommend doing this more in-depth kind of 3D sonogram, sort of. The technology, the machines are better. They can see more, and it's a little more in-depth of a sonogram, and you have to actually go to the high-risk doctor and go to the hospital for that. They can't do that at the OBGYN office, at the one that I went to. Usually you have to go to a high-risk doctor, and that's performed at the hospital. And so I did that, and when we went to that, because of technology is so great right now, and they can just see so much more than they could, even from like 2 years ago is what the doctor told us. That's when I got a little freaked out. Did the sonogram. She said, okay, we're going to look at it, and the doctor may or may not come in, right, and talk to you. Like you might not even talk to the doctor.
Right. Doctor
looks at it, doctor comes in. And I'm like, yeah, right. When does the doctor come in if there's not a problem? And so
exactly.
I started getting a little worried, and I'm like, oh no. And I was like, okay, but they said, this was our first and only high risk appointment. I go, there might not be anything. They might just be introducing themselves, No. The baby, they detected a VSD.
What's that?
I'll be honest, I probably should have looked this up. I always butcher it. It stands for like ventricular something disorder, or something. I don't know. I'd have to look it up again. I can never remember the official words, but what it is there's a little hole in the baby's heart. So there's
it's called ventricle septal defect, something like that.
There you go. Yeah. And your heart has 4 chambers, the upper 2 chambers and the lower 2 chambers, and they described it to us as the lower 2 chambers. They're all divided, and there was a tiny little hole in between the 2 lower chambers is where hers was.
Oh my gosh.
And of course I'm freaking out, and I'm starting to cry, and I don't know, I have all these emotions going through me.
Yeah.
My husband went to this appointment with me, and they were really great. She was there. She was relaxed, but she was upfront, honest, and she made it sound like it was normal or very common, and it was nothing to worry about. I mean, she kept saying that, and she said that these are very common, and the only reason why they even detected it now is because she goes, 2 years ago, they probably wouldn't have even seen it because of technology. They could just see that much detail. But when they see things like that, they're obligated to tell us, right? And it's
Sure.
our decision as the parents, if we want to, what direction we want to go in. And the two options that they gave us were, if she wanted us to go further, they could go in microscopically, and do some more and see some more while being pregnant. Obviously, there's a lot of risks with that, right?
Sure.
Or we could wait until after the baby's born and just monitor the baby then. And she personally recommended and kept saying that she didn't think it was necessary to do anything scopically right now, that this was a very common thing. They see it a lot. And she even said the reason why she wasn't worried is because it was so small. She said if it was a larger hole, she might suggest and direct us and give us advice to go in a different direction. But she really did not see concern. And she said a lot of these will actually heal up on their own. And when the baby's born, it's gone. They don't even have it anymore. And, or if they are still born with it. So I asked, well, what if she is still born with it? Well, so by the way, I say I didn't say that at the time. We did not find out the sex of the baby.
Oh, I was going to ask you that next. That's really fun.
We were surprised. So this whole time, and we always made sure we told all the nurses, and every time, and they were great. They always asked us, every time we went in for sonogram, now, are you going to find out? Or do you guys know what the sex of the baby is? I said, no, we're waiting to be a surprise. Never slipped up. We never found out. So at this point we didn't know. I say she, but that's just because I know we ended up having a baby girl. But the hole in her heart, I said, if she is, when she is born, then, when the baby's born, with it, what do you do? And they said the baby would have to have surgery. But it's a really easy procedure, a simple procedure. Go in, there's different things, she said. And because of technology, there's all kinds of things that they can do. Sometimes they can fill it with this little like spongy material. There's all different kinds of things, techniques, she said, that they can do to fix that. So again, she made it sound like it was super easy. And she goes, and a lot of those kids, they end up, being and growing normal, being normal kids, having normal lives, and not being affected by it at all. So that kind of put my mind at ease a little bit, but I'm still in shock and freaking out, and of course, we did tell our family, about it. And, it's one of those things, everyone just tried to reassure me. Well, don't worry, Misty, don't worry, And of course I did, being a mom and being pregnant and my first pregnancy and all that. Of
course.
But once I let it out of my system, which I was more emotional, during pregnancy, I just tended to cry a little bit easier. Other than that, I feel I did really, really well. I didn't have, my husband said I did pretty good. I didn't have very major, mood swings or anything like that. So, but, once I got the kind of crying and shock out of my system, and I just kept saying, the doctors are not worried. If the doctors aren't worried, we probably shouldn't be worried. And there's not a whole lot we can do at this point anyways. I go, they'll keep an eye on us, So, I mean, the baby. So because of that, though, we found all that. And then the gestational, they then considered me high risk. And then I did have to start going to the high risk doctor in addition to my OB. And let me tell you, that was very annoying. But I understand why they do it. There's reasons. They're really trying to monitor you, and the baby, and they just want to make sure everything is good. So,
so what were you doing at this high risk doctor? Like, are you having the same exact doctor's appointment that you're having like just twice, or what?
Well, so my experience, I think, was different because that's what I had heard, like my friend, she had two separate completely appointments, and she always would see 2 different doctors. Mine was a little bit different. What it entailed, actually, it merged my regular doctor with it. Really, I didn't actually see another doctor per se, just that one doctor with the VSD. That was the only other time I saw like a separate quote unquote high risk doctor, right? It's just a regimen is what I experienced. So now that I'm high risk, I had more appointments, but appointments meaning sonograms.
Oh.
So I feel like, they always, oh, well, I think you only get like 2, maybe 3. And they don't start having you go in regularly for regular sonogram appointments until you're like that last month. They're really monitoring you and the baby really closely, right? With us at that point, once we found out, I had to start going, and I had to schedule. It was every other week, I think, when we first started. I had a sonogram. Now there's different levels of sonograms. And so, and if I did not, and what they do, and they'll check and look at different things, and they, different lengths of sonograms too. The more in-depth sonograms, they do all the measuring, and everything. They check the level of your amniotic fluid, all this stuff. They do a whole bunch of stuff. It's all inclusive, all encompassing, right? And those take a little bit longer. Those are kind of what I call your regular sonograms. These little intravenous ones that I would have were really quick, really short, and really all they're not doing any measuring, or any of that. And for the most part, and what they're looking is they want to make sure the baby is moving. So the baby needs to be active. And if you go into your appointment and you cannot get the baby to move, they will send you to the hospital. And that's bad. And you don't want that.
Yeah.
And so, but the baby could just be sleeping, right?
Right.
And so they gave me tips and tricks to do. They said, before you come to your appointment, eat, some sugar. Well, being gestational diabetic, being pregnant, you got to really watch what you're eating. And so I couldn't do that. So I had to pick and choose and do certain things. They said, or if you can't eat fruit, eat your serving of fruit, because that has the natural sugar in it. Or if you can do a protein bar that has a little bit of the chocolate or peanut butter in it. Or, so eating something like that right before your appointment, because I'll help wake the baby up. And also if you drink cold things, and or acidic, like orange juice, acidic things, orange juice. And I had a girlfriend who had just had a baby, and she was giving me some of those tips. She said the same thing, and that worked for her. She drank orange juice, cold orange juice, or cold water. Both of those is what did it for her. I just did both. I ate like a protein bar, a chocolate peanut butter protein bar, and cold water. I couldn't do the orange juice with it being the gestational diabetic, but those worked for me every time I went. There was only one time, and so the baby was always very active, so that was good. All but one time, it took almost the whole appointment for us to try to wake the baby up. And the sonogrammist does a really good job. They can kind of push and prod a little bit on your belly, but then they also had me, like, she had me turn to one side or turn to the other side, because I told her when I'm in bed, if I turn to one side versus the other, I can usually feel the baby start moving. And so, there's just different things. You just got to kind of know your body. But she ended up being able to see the baby move enough. And they always check the breathing and make sure they can hear the heartbeat and that the heartbeat's right and all of that. And then they do make sure your placenta, amniotic fluid level is good. Because it's also something that you can either have you can produce a whole lot, but you can also, it can be dangerous if your amniotic fluid levels get too low. So,
sure.
But all that ended up being good. So
That's great.
I had to keep going to those appointments. So it was kind of a blessing because after almost every single one of those appointments, even if they were the little quick intravenous ones, except towards the end, the first few, I mean, they just snap a couple pictures and they give them to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's fun.
yeah, so we have more than the normal sonogram pictures, which is kind of nice. But so blessing in disguise and having to do all that, having to go through that. But then
tell me.
Oh, go
ahead. I wanted to ask about why you didn't want to find out the sex, because that's exactly what I want to do, but I want to hear why you want to do it.
Well, so I am a very type A, organized, I like to plan personality. So a lot of people thought they were shocked that I wanted to wait and find out because they're like, don't you want to plan? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, yes, I like to plan, but I said, but there's enough gender neutral stuff and it doesn't even matter in my opinion. Why can't a girl wear blue or a boy wear pink or whatever, and I'll be honest, I grew up in a room that was painted pink and I loved it back then. I had strawberry shortcake curtains covering my closet. And I was overwhelmed with pink. And so I think as a child, I got sick of it. I really don't care for the color pink, especially just the baby girl pink that you normally think of. I don't mind more of a hot pink or more of a purpley fuchsia pink, those kind of pinks. But even then, I'm like, oh, same thing though. If I had a boy or if I had a girl, I didn't want everything to be blue or everything to be pink, that you always see or you always hear about, or just kind of the traditional, And there's no way I was going to have a pink nursery or an all blue nursery or any of that,
Right.
And I'm more susceptible. I like blues more than I like pinks anyways. But so I just felt, and I like the excitement. I like the excitement of wanting to find out, waiting until the end, to me, that's a whole nother, I mean, it's one of the things in life that you can choose to be surprised about, So, and I'm fortunate that my hubby felt the same way. Now, when we went in for that detailed sonogram around week, what was it, 2022 weeks, when we could find out, he was like, well, maybe we should find out. And I said, no, we've come this far. We're over halfway through, no, we're not doing. And he told me before, don't let me find out, even if I want to change my mind. So when he started talking like that and he knew we could find out, I said, no, remember what you told me? I said, we're not going to find out. So we held strong. We held strong because I've talked to and heard a few people and a few stories where they broke down and they found out, they just couldn't, they just couldn't do it or whatever. And I'm like, no. So, and I'm very happy we did. So
no regrets.
Nope. No regrets. Nope. No.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
And
I
we're
think
very blessed
same
that
way.
the nurses, no one slipped up there, all that. And that is something that we experienced. A lot of the nurses and our doctors, they'll naturally just say he. And then we're like, oh no, is it a boy? And they're like, no, sorry. I just always call it a he. I always say he. They're like, that means nothing. They go, we don't even know, what your sex is or anything like that. Or a lot of the nurses will tell us up front. There are a couple nurses, they always say she. And the one nurse told us that. She goes, I'll when I talk about it, I usually try to say the baby, but if I do, I go, she goes, a lot of times I just naturally say she. She goes, and that doesn't mean you're having a girl. I just, for whatever reason, that's a lot of times when I talk, that's how it comes. So we had a mix. We had a mix of nurses and sonogramists and stuff like that would they're not slipping up, but they just naturally in their talk, they'd say she or he or whatever. And so it was nice to know that up front. So we didn't have any like freak outs thinking, oh my gosh, did they just slip up and we're having a boy now or we're having a girl? But so that was really nice to know ahead of time. Our nurses and everybody kind of gave us a heads up regarding that. So we didn't take any of their words to heart when it came to that, hearing that stuff. So.
That's good. I'm the same way because I'm like, it's a little tiny baby. There's no reason to make it a gender either way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's whatever happens and let them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great. It was a great, great surprise. Love it. And that way
Yeah.
too, it's not so focused on the one gender either,
Yes.
I mean, it's not
Uh-huh.
about that. It's about having a happy,
Mhm.
healthy baby is
That's right.
my opinion. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
So how did you navigate the name?
Okay, so we were very blessed in those regards too. It didn't take
Mhm.
us very long to agree. So many people I heard, they're like, "Oh my gosh, how long did it take you to agree on a name or names?" So we obviously came up with a boy name and a girl name, right? That we were ready and prepared
Mhm.
for either. We actually had two girls' names and two boys' names that we agreed on. And then we decided which one was our favorite girl and which one was our favorite boy. So we had
Mhm.
names officially picked out, but um, it only took us, we were just in the middle of the night. We were, or not in the middle of the night, sorry, at one night, we were, decided we were going to talk about baby names, and we were decided to sit on the couch and have the TV on in the background, and we just kind of started looking at names online, boys' names,
Uh-huh.
girls' names, and I just read a bunch off, and he'd be like, "Yeah, no," or if he liked one, he'd pop in and tell me, or if I liked one, I'd be like, "No," or like if he knew somebody, or I knew somebody, or there was history behind the name, or whatnot that we
Mhm.
didn't care for, and um, and so just it was about 2 evenings. We did that 2 different nights, and came up with a couple names that we liked, and that was it. And we decided that there weren't really any other that we really liked, and there was a couple we really liked, and so we didn't spend any more time. And we're like, yeah,
Oh my
that's it.
gosh.
And that was just first names. And so then middle names, we decided to do middle names, and
Mhm.
we had picked out middle names. And a lot of times I had said, well, what about, let's think about, family tradition or family names, bringing down, from like grandparents or parents, or whatnot. And so, because of the first names we came up with were just names we like that had nothing to do with any of our family.
Mhm.
Um, the middle names we wanted to pull from our parents and or family, and so the girl name, so Addison is her name, and we like to call her
Mhm.
Addie, and her middle name is Ann, and the ANN, and that was very easy for us because
Addison.
my mom's middle name and his mom's middle name are both
Oh,
Ann.
that's perfect. That just
Right?
worked out
I
perfect.
know. I couldn't believe it. And if we had a boy, if we had a boy's name picked out, since our dad's names were different, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to make one dad feel like, slighted or
Mhm.
anything. And so we were just going to do Justin's middle name. His name is Alexander. So the boy's name was gonna have his middle name if we did do that and carry that on. And
Mhm.
his middle name is actually derived. I think his grandpa had that same middle name. So, but yeah, we ended up having a girl. So her name is Addison Ann.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you picked out a name in like 2 days.
Oh yeah. Yep. And
Oh my gosh.
her name does have a little significance. So
Mhm.
we met him and I. So I moved to Texas. What do I want to say? During my internship of school.
Mhm.
Um, and I did my professional internship instead of doing study abroad. And
Mhm.
um, I didn't know anybody when I moved to Texas. And so that's back when the AOL chat rooms were a thing and meeting
Yeah.
people. And that's how my husband and I actually met. We met and we
No
started,
way.
and we started,
I did not know this.
yeah, and we started talking. And I moved in January, beginning of of a semester, and you spend your whole semester, college semester, and the summer, and then you go back to school because it was K-State's a 5-year accredited program. And so I was there from January to August. And I didn't know, like I said, didn't know anybody. I wanted to meet some people. And so went on a little chat room, started talking to him. We decided to meet and do a blind date after talking for a month through phone, AOL chat and through phone. And we met in Addison, Texas.
Oh, that's cute.
And it was
because he lived in Carrollton, right?
Yeah. He lived in Carrollton, and Addison's right there, not far, because you used to live in Farmers Branch.
Yep.
So yeah, we met. There was a TGI Fridays. It's no longer there. They moved the TGI Fridays to a different location, but it was right there at Beltline and the Toll.
That's right.
And in Addison. And so, but that name we liked, and we didn't even put 2 and 2 together. And then I said, you know what, babe, that's kind of cool. It was like after the fact. I said, that's kind of cool because you know what? Our first date, I said, we met at the TGI Fridays in Addison, Texas. And he's like, you're right. For first, it was actually our first date was Super Bowl Sunday to watch the game together. But yeah, and so that kind of has some extra meaning.
That's cute. I love it.
Yeah. So it didn't take us long because I hear a lot of horror stories. One of the nurses even said some couples still don't know or can agree on names, and they're like arguing during their sonogram appointments, and she said it makes it a little awkward for them. The one sonogrammer said it. She's like, oh, maybe you guys should take that, take it home and argue at home about it or whatever. But no.
Yeah, that's going to be us arguing until the baby's born about a name. And we actually already still like talk about names all the time.
Yeah, and you haven't agreed on any?
Yeah, we actually do like a few, but the thing is the ones that I like, they end up getting popular, and I'm like, oh no, we have to.
Then you got to start over.
We have to stay out of the top 100. Other than that, I'm pretty okay.
Nice.
Okay, Misty, talk to me about your birth. When did it start?
Well, so that was a little unexpected as well. Let me back up just a little bit. So the gestational diabetes, the part that I had to do with that is I ended up having to give myself insulin shots. Not a big deal. Yeah, it stinks. And I didn't know how I'd react to that, but it was more of an annoyance than anything. I felt like that's all I was doing was checking my levels. You got to give yourself a shot and you got to check your levels. I had to check my levels 3 times a day. And so, and you have to do it at certain times and so long after you eat, and oh my gosh. But I did have to go to a dietitian that was done through the hospital, through the network, and specific for the gestational diabetes. And it was really me and a few other pregnant women that were in there. And they go through and give you tips and tricks and really help tell you what you should eat or what you can't eat or what you should stay away from, all those kinds of things. And I actually really struggled in the beginning with getting it under control. My levels just were high, regardless of what I ate or drank. And I was actually already eating and drinking and doing the things I should have been doing already before I was even diagnosed with the gestational diabetes. And gestational diabetes, a lot of it, and they try to tell you, you did nothing wrong. They said, it's just something that happens. It is caused primarily from the placenta. The placenta.
Really?
Yeah. If you look it up, it really goes in. I had to look it up and really read a lot on it because I just didn't understand a whole lot about it. But yeah, you become and kind of have like what they call an insulin resistance or whatever. It puts out a lot of extra sugars and it overloads your bloodstream, with all that extra. And it doesn't So the process just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And it's due to the placenta putting out all those extra sugars and stuff. So, um, so yeah. And so I had to do all that. But once I got in the groove, got all that, we ended up, and so I did have phone conversations, every other week with the, nurse, a special nurse that got assigned to me specifically for the diabetes, for the levels, for the insulin levels. And I had to track every day, multiple times a day, what I was eating and what my levels were. She gave me first, they start you off at a really low dose. And I had two different types of insulin. There's daytime and fast acting insulin and slow acting. And usually you take the slow acting at night and you take the fast acting during the day. And that's what I had to do. I thought, oh yeah, it's just going to be like one shot a day. Oh no, I had to do it, give myself 4 shots total a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was very annoying, but we got it all under control. It was great with the monitoring levels. She, every week, she would make me turn in my levels and she would adjust it based on what it was. And we got my daytime stuff really great in normal pregnancy range, but it was the nighttime. And you'd think it'd be what you're eating. And sometimes it was, but it's actually, if you go too long without eating, that actually hurts you and it makes your levels go high, because what it does is your liver, they said, liver and kidneys, they will start dumping sugars in the morning because they realize that you haven't eaten yet, for how long. And so then that makes your levels go up. So you really have to eat so often. They don't want you to have sugar highs or sugar lows when you're diabetic. And so the thing is to try to keep your levels constant. So they really help you with that. So got all that under control. We even got the nighttime under control. It was more towards the end of the pregnancy, obviously, but that's the most critical. And with gestational diabetes, the baby can grow very fast, very big. And that's a bad thing because then if they have to you take the baby and induce you early, the baby might not be developed. And so they want to try to keep the baby in you as long as possible, right?
Right.
And that's where the sonograms come in and, everything, just all the monitoring. And my doctor had told me, based on my due date and based on all of that and how things were going, she said, I can tell you right now, you're not going to go full term to your due date. She goes, I will probably, if you haven't already naturally gone into labor a week, potentially 2 weeks before your due date, she goes, I will probably induce you for safety reasons. And she said what can happen is, a lot of things can happen just with blood work. You can get high blood pressure, all this stuff, but the baby again can get too big and then it can be dangerous for the baby and for mommy to come out naturally. Because the shoulders can then get too broad, too wide. The baby in general is just too big and you can break bones in the mom, like the hips and all those kinds of stuff. And same with the baby, like things can just get really dangerous. And a lot of times when you do have that, you do end up having a C-section because the babies end up being pretty big. But not always. And so she just wanted to stay ahead of everything, but she gave me that heads up, early enough that said, just let we'll keep all your doctor's appointments scheduled all the way up until your due date, all that and everything. But more than likely, she said, we'll take the baby, a week early for sure. She told me, maybe 2 weeks early. And so we just planned on that's probably what would happen. Right. Didn't mean I wanted to have a C-section. I wanted to have the baby naturally, if possible.
With or without drugs?
I pretty much decided in the beginning with drugs, only because I've talked to pretty much, again, I'm the old one, older, had kid. All my friends that already had kids, more or less, they were all same kind of thing. And so I had a lot of friends I could talk to and people I know, that have had babies. And I talked to a lot of people. Some people have good experiences. Some people have bad experiences. I had one really close friend the one that I work with, she had a bad experience, with doing like epidural and things, drugs and things like that. And, but all the rest of my friends, great experiences. And also one person told me they chose not to and then gave in the middle of it and said they wish they had done it in the beginning. It was just too much to handle. So for them, so I decided in the beginning, I didn't even want to put myself in that position. I thought about it, but I said, nope, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. But that was the scariest part for me going into it because, for me, I chose to get an epidural, and the risks involved with that really freaked me out. And my one friend that she said she had a bad experience, it really, really hurt for her. And so I was really scared it was going to be so painful. Like I've heard, and she said it was more painful than having a baby for her.
Oh my gosh.
Like that was the worst part of pregnancy for her.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I was really freaked out. But my other friends, they said that, it wasn't a big deal for them. And so, but it did just prepare. So I prepared myself that it was going to hurt. That ended up being so easy peasy for me. It didn't hurt at all for me. I barely felt anything. And it worked for me. Now, my one friend who it was a bad experience for her, she's had 2 girls, and she had told me she thinks her first epidural didn't even work. And she didn't realize it until she had her second baby, and how much difference it was because she felt so much with her first pregnancy. She's like, I really don't think my epidural worked. If it did, it barely worked compared to her second pregnancy. So it's just crazy. It just affects everybody differently. And even like that, everyone has different experiences. But I chose to, and it worked for me. I didn't feel hardly any pain at all regarding all that. But now again, my birth experience was a little bit different because, so I ended up going, so keep in mind with gestational diabetes, I have all these appointments to go to. They're monitoring me, my levels, all that stuff. I go in to one of my appointments. I am 36 weeks. Almost 36 weeks. I was like,
and they say that's like the safe zone, right?
No, 37. Well,
okay.
Okay. So I found out 35 weeks is between. Okay, I say this. Anything before 35 weeks is considered preemie. 30, according to my doctors. I don't know if everybody goes off this or how much of a standard this is, but 35 to 37, you're not considered preemie, but you're considered, or preterm, but you're considered late preterm because you're at the very end. You're almost full term. Full term is considered 37 weeks or later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Me either.
Yeah. So I was at was I 35? I was, or 36 in like a day. I think, I was 36 in a day or 36 in 2 days. I was almost 37 weeks. So I was considered late preterm. But I went in for that appointment and doctor's appointment, and I had really high blood pressure.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And there was a lot of stress going on. We were moving and in the process of trying to find a home all at the same time. And again, what did I say? Stress, I feel really, really plays a part in it. And I tried to keep my stress level down, but it's really difficult, when how stressful moving is in general, let alone trying to be pregnant. And then I can only do so much and help so much that then I felt bad. And my husband was really stressed out because he's having to do a lot more, I mean, we tried to divvy up and I tried to do things that I could do, but just so much. So anyways, just a lot going on. And, I had gone in and had some high blood pressure at the week and a half previously. It was a little high, and they didn't send me to the hospital or anything. She said, I just want you to get, and monitor it at home. And when I went in for the next week and a half for that appointment, when I was 36 weeks or whatever, that appointment, because you're going in like every week, every 2 weeks at that point, you're so close that you're going in a lot. And like I said, I had multiple appointments a week, like 2 appointments a week at least. And, it was high, and she had said, I'm admitting you. And she goes, and I'm going to prepare you that, they'll do some testing over there, but she goes, they're probably going to induce you. And I'm like, okay. So I went straight from that. It's all in the kind of the same complex as the birth center. It's all connected to the hospital and all that kind of stuff where I went. And my OB is right there as well and everything. And so I literally just drove to like the next parking lot over or whatever. Parked my car with the intention it was going to be there in the pregnancy area or whatnot, and called my husband before I went in and let him know. And we hadn't even, she's at this point a month before she's due, right? Before the baby's due. And I'm a month out, and we thought we still had at least 2 weeks.
Right.
Before we were even going to get taken 2 weeks before, early. So,
yeah, because you're a planner.
Yeah. And I was like, dang it. So, now mind you, anything can happen, but who thinks they're going to go in a month early? I thought for sure, no way, and a lot of times people say you're first. Usually you go after your due date if you don't have any other complications, usually a lot of times you're later, not all the time, but so anyhow, so I told him, we had just started packing the bag. It wasn't completely packed, the hospital bag and all that stuff. And so he had to pack the bag. I told him, hey, you got to pack the bag and all this and that. And, yeah. So he did all that and came to the hospital, and we started the process. They induced me, and that whole process kind of started. One thing that did prepare me is I like I said, I'm a planner. And throughout this whole pregnancy, I didn't know what to register for. I had some friends and family that wanted to throw me a shower, so they threw me a shower. So I registered, and just all these other things on what to expect and things to buy, for a baby, to prep for a baby, having a baby and all that. I needed guidance, and I didn't know what to do. And I like checklists. I like lists. And so I bought a pregnancy planner, and I found a really, really good one on Etsy, and it was written and done by a mom who had gone through all of this, and she had wished she had something like this. So that's what made her decide to write and put together one so that other moms could have that. And so these are all just suggestions and things that you would typically want to kind of prepare for, and has different tabs with different things. I got it off Etsy. It's called Expecting and Organized Pregnancy and Newborn Baby Planner by Undefining Motherhood. And it's got different tabs. Introduction, before baby arrives, ready at home, hello baby, recovery and support, and there's all kinds of little sub things in between all that, and it goes into a lot of depth, like the level of depth that I like. She's got a whole section in here that you can check off that's just checklist for everything possible you may or may not want to register for, baby product. That really, really helped me to register through things. And part of that is things you need to think of, not just for the baby afterwards, but for you, for mama, for afterwards, for recovery, things you might want to have at home for recovery, or things to pack for the hospital bag. So when I said we weren't totally packed, I had already gotten a few things, and thank goodness. And there's things that you just I would never have thought about. And so this planner really, really helped me throughout all of that. Same with, classes that they might suggest taking. I took an online CPR class, my husband and I did, specific for adults, all the way for infants, toddlers, child, and adult. It takes you through the whole thing. That was something important to us. And that's one of the things that they recommend in this planner, There's other classes and things too that you can take. We personally did not take any other classes. There was some stuff available through the hospital, other resources. We went and looked online and just watched. There's so much stuff online now and YouTube videos and stuff like that you can look at. I had never swaddled a baby before, and I didn't know how. And I didn't know you could buy the pre-swaddle things at first, but just with a regular blanket kind of thing. I didn't know there's a certain technique, and so we just watched a couple swaddle videos and then practiced. I think I did on a stuffed animal or something, and that was it, really, So this planner really helped me as far as that goes. And so things that I thought really helped for to have at the hospital for me was to have my own gown. They will provide one for you, and there's nothing wrong with them. But I wanted to have something too for pictures. But it just felt more comfortable. And it was just and stuff to take a shower. Once you're released, you can't take a shower right away. But let me tell you, that was one of the number one things I read that this planner too had told and recommended, is when you're allowed to take a shower, do it, because you will feel like a whole new mama, a whole new person.
I bet.
So, and it's not it won't be, like a normal shower, but like you're used to, you're going to be recovering and stuff, but it makes you feel so much better. But sleep deprivation was my number one thing. But because I had the high blood pressure, which is also called preeclampsia, they had me on magnesium the entire time I was in the hospital. And that makes you really, really tired and doped up from day one, or feel dopey. It doesn't dope you up, but it made me feel that much more tired. And you're already tired from going through, labor and everything, and just all the other stuff. Nurses come in every hour, poking and prodding you, checking, testing you, doing all your things. So I was just so exhausted. I mean, to the point where groggy. I just don't remember a lot of it. My mom even said, well, Misty, you don't realize how bad you were. I mean, I had IVs hooked up to both of me. The nurses said that my experience is I had everything, all at once, because I had to be checking my blood sugar levels because I was the gestational diabetic, right? I also had preeclampsia, the high blood pressure. So there's certain things, the magnesium, all these other things, and other tests that they have to do for that. And there's just all this stuff. And my doctor came in, though. They induced me, and I started dilating very quickly. And she said, that's a good sign. I'm like, oh, this is great. Maybe this will go quick, right? Well, it didn't go very quick for me. And it was about 36 to 40 hours later. And and I got dilated to 7.5-ish, something like that. I pretty much peaked, and I really wasn't dilating much more. And the doctor had come in and said, and it wasn't my doctor actually, which was another thing I was a little concerned with, but there's a network of doctors that are just in our OB clinic, and I've heard they're all amazing. And it was one of the other doctors that was on call that ended up delivering my baby, and did an amazing job. Amazing. So, that wasn't a huge concern, but I would recommend to any mom who's pregnant to have that conversation with your doctor. What happens? Because that was also something, my doctor was scheduled to be on vacation the week I was due. And the nurses had told me that when I was doing all my scheduling. And so she said, oh, well, don't worry. We won't even probably get to your due date. But those are things that just the more, in my opinion, the more prepared, so it's less of a surprise, of a negative surprise potentially, will help you reduce your stress.
Yeah.
So I went through all that, got to 7.5. They won't deliver you until you get to 10 centimeters dilated, right? So
Right.
she came in and said, I think it's time. She goes, but we can wait another couple hours and see if you dilate more. But she goes, the longer you wait, the higher the risk is for you and the baby, for more stuff to go wrong, for your blood pressure to go up even more, to do this, to do that. And she finally got to a certain point, and that was that point at 7.5 dilation, at where I was at, that she recommended going to a C-section, calling it quits. I really tried. She goes, I know you're, you really wanted to do it, vaginally, but, and she was willing to wait. She said, I'll do whatever. It's your choice. And at that point I was so tired too. And I'd gone through all that. And the fact that I just kept thinking about, the longer I keep doing this and wanting to try to do it naturally, selfishly for me, right? I'm putting me and my baby at a higher risk. Like I've done it. I went this long. I got a real good shot at it. And so I chose to say, okay, no, let's go ahead and let's prep for the C-section. So I ended up, then they had me in and out. I mean, that part of it was really quick. I tell you, the nurses and doctors are, I pray that every woman can have as good of an experience as I did. I never would have had, been able to get through, I feel, as good as I did without the great support, of all the nurses and doctors that I had. I really, really had really good nurses. And like even the anesthesiologist, I'll never forget, he was one of my favorites. He was right there by my side throughout the C-section, experience, because you're awake. I was awake. They didn't knock me completely out. He's cracking jokes the whole time. Oh my gosh. Anytime I start to feel a little bit, like it was too much or this or that, he'd be cracking another joke. And it just really relaxed me and put me at ease. Like, I'm like, he really, I think he's the one I remember the most, put it that way. So made it super easy. But, yeah. And I mean, they ask you and they fill out a little survey, or at least they did with me, all the different detailed questions, which my husband and I had talked about ahead of time, which I, again, was prompted by the planner that I bought. Things I wouldn't have thought of. Well, who's going to cut the umbilical cord? Or do you want the doctors to do that? My husband gets squeamish when it comes to that stuff. And if there is a chance to do that. And, am I even allowed to do that, or do the doctors just automatically do it? Do they give you the option? Do you want to be able to see the birth? Like, you can request a clear drape if you want.
Yeah.
And I said I kind of want to do that. It was going to make me feel more like part of the birth, I decided I want it. Unfortunately, I had that request, and they told me, they said it was super sorry, but they didn't have any more clear ones available. So I, in the end,
that's too bad.
Didn't end up getting that. But it's those kinds of things. There's other things that are on that list and different things like that. Do you want music? Do you not want music? I mean, there's all these other, though, technical things. And then, do you want your baby to get couple of these different types of shots, like right away, that they would normally give the baby? Do you want it or not? They just ask, like you said, do you want things, what do you want to do? Is there anything special with the placenta? Do you want to do any of this kind of stuff? There's all these detailed questions. And you fill that kind of stuff out, that kind of help create that birth plan for you. There are a couple shots that they recommend, the baby getting right away, like vitamin D, I don't know, a couple vitamin shots. Can't remember exactly. And, we were like, okay, just vitamins. We're fine with that. There was one shot we chose not to get right away. I think it was like some kind of hepatitis shot. I really had no worries, because all my tests came back good. And, I figured, if we want that, we can always give that to the baby down the road, right? My thought is the less the baby has to have right away, in my opinion, the better. Just trying to overload their system with stuff, their immune systems, all that stuff are so new right away. But that's my opinion. I did not get to hold her right away because they had to take her. Now they held her up and I saw her. She was right there in the room with me, all that. They had to do their thing to check her out, and get her all kosher and good. But that's also another thing, how much you want. Sometimes you have the option. They'll give them a full bath right away and you have the option, or they don't have to. But skin to skin contact was really a big deal that they really pushed there. And I wanted that anyways. They say for bonding and heart rate and just all of that stuff. It really is supposed to help. So I was very avid. After the fact, when we were back in our rooms, I always did the skin to skin. I made sure I did that a lot. I feel that really helped.
So did Justin end up cutting the cord?
He did not. And he did not want to. Like I said, he felt, he did not want to pass out. And like I said, he gets pretty squirmish when it comes to that stuff. And so he was there for a while. And then when he got to a certain point, he decided he would leave and he left, and that's okay. And I was okay with that because I did not want him passing out at any point. And so I trusted his judgment. And that's also, then he knew his job was to let parents and grandparents and everybody know everything was okay, mom and baby were all right, and what we had and what her name was, and all that stuff. And that was his job. And so when he stepped out, he took care of that and those duties. And then he ended up coming back, and then pretty much at that point, I was pretty much all wrapped up, and she was all wrapped up, and he was able to go with her back to the room. And then they wheeled me back, to our new room. They keep you in a little room. They kept me in a like ICU type room or whatever, that immediate, like right after birthing room. And then once you check out from all of that, you and the baby, then you get to go back to your other room where you're at for a while. And because I was in that pre-late term category, as far as being in the 35 to 37 week, she did not need to go to the ICU, the NICU.
Oh, what a relief.
Yes. And so she got to stay in the room with us. So
that's nice.
It was very, very nice. Now, very, very exhausted, obviously, throughout everything, and him. And deprivation of sleep is a whole new meaning when you go through something like this. And it was really nice because the NICU nurses, they would come down to our room, obviously, and check on her and all that. And every now and again, they had to take her to do certain testing. But otherwise, they just did everything there. And there was twice that they asked us if we wanted them to take her for like a 4 to 5 hour stretch up to the NICU with them to allow us to actually sleep and get some sleep, like a longer stretch of sleep. And we said yes. And that was a breath of fresh air, let me tell you. It really rejuvenated. As much as I didn't want to spend that long, without her and all that, you got to take care of you too. And I really needed that. And then my hubby too. So the room we had, they were really nice. It was a nice hospital, all of that. They call it a birth center connected to the hospital, but it was nice. They had, a fold out couch and, and all that kind of a thing. But, he really needed to get away too. And he needed to get a true full night's sleep. And I said, there's really nothing for you here, babe. I know you're here for support. I don't need you here every single night. Like, he was there the first 2 nights and spent the first 2 nights, I believe, with me. And I said, go home, come back, go get some stuff, do whatever you need to do, take a shower, do your things and, all that. And so, and that really helped him. and it helped us.
Yeah.
Because when you both are super stressed out and lack of sleep, you know, I didn't want to get into arguing with each other and stuff like that. And so you got to learn to take care of you a little bit too. And so that really helped. The nurses took her twice, for that little like 4 or 5 hour stretch, and fed her. Cause otherwise, you know, I got to be up, I got to be feeding her every 2 to 3 hours right away, you know, and I did. I tried, I wanted to breastfeed. And so that was also another thing. I had no clue what to do. The lactation nurses that are there were so helpful. And I'm a person, it was a little weird at first, but I realized I didn't care. You know, I'm not super, super private like that. Like I knew, like if I wanted the help, they're going to sit there. They're going to see my breasts, you know, they're there not to judge or any of that. They're there to help. And it was about me and the baby and getting her to latch and getting, you know, making sure she's getting the nutrients she needs and all this and that and getting the food she needs. And so they were so great, all kinds of tips and tricks. And so I highly recommend it. And even just the regular nurses, ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It was amazing. All the help, that we got. And it really helped me and helped us prepare for coming home on our own. I was really nervous, about that. Cause when I was there and I had their help, I was scared how that was going to translate to us, you know, doing it on our own. You know, I was afraid. I was fortunate she latched on right away. And I was like, oh yes, this is going to be great. My colostrum started to come in earlier than normal. They say usually 3 to 5 days. Mine came in at like day 2 or something, a little early.
Wow.
And so I was really thinking, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. Well, then she didn't latch on, and breastfeeding wasn't going as well. Like the next couple times of feeding, and they reassured me. The nurses just kept saying, this is normal. This is normal. You're going to have good times. You're going to have bad times. It doesn't mean that she's new to this. Sometimes she'll latch on. Sometimes she might not. You just got to stick with it. You got to stay positive. You know, I'm not going to lie. It was frustrating. But it was good at the same time, just knowing that was normal, you know, that I wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong. And they kept reassuring me that. They're like, Misty, you are doing everything you should be. And she just, a couple of those times, she just wouldn't latch. It just wouldn't work, you know? But there's other ways too, even when she didn't latch, on how to supplement. They supplement we supplemented with formula, but we would try to get her to latch, and we would put this little tube, slide it into her mouth as she's latched onto me, because obviously I'm not going to produce enough for what she's going to need, right? Because my milk's not in yet. It's just a little bit of colostrum. Now, they say that's supposed to have enough nutrients for the baby, but the baby still needs to eat, especially since she was early. She wasn't, you know, she needs to gain some weight, you know, all of this too. But, and they lose weight, right? A lot of times they have a birth weight and then they lose weight, and that's normal. And you want to make sure that they start gaining that back. And so that was a little technique that they offered to try to help with. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And it worked. It didn't work all the time, but it worked a lot of the time. So I was able to supplement and she was able to get extra food, not just the colostrum that I was giving, she was getting from me, and not all the time she would even latch every single time, right? For that. So that was cool. And that's the best I can kind of describe that process. But that was something new and different that I hadn't experienced, but before, didn't even know it was an option. That way we didn't just bottle feed, right? After she tried to latch and stuff, and breastfeed. But anyhow, so that was great. And really, I've been blessed. We've been great. When we did get home, she's a good eater. So we've been fortunate in that regard.
And breastfeeding has been good ever since.
Well, yes, as far as her latching and eating, but I So they start off eating and needing a certain amount. So they gave me a little chart, but it only goes to so many weeks, on how much a baby typically, every baby's different, but typically should be eating, right? Depending on their age. And so the first week of their life, they should be eating a certain amount. The second week of their life, they should be eating another, if they're a 3-week-old, 4-week-old, and it increases, but it only increases a certain amount, each time and all that. And after that little chart, I think it only went to 3 weeks. I didn't know how much more to feed. And so that's before their 1 month. We had a 1 month checkup. And I did. I was tired. So that's one of my biggest concerns is, am I overfeeding? Am I underfeeding my baby? And I just don't know. And I think that's just an up in the air thing that you just don't know. And that's why you have those checkups is you weigh the baby, you check the length, all this, that you monitor their growth. And that kind of helps guide and tell you, if they're a little underweight, then this is what you should try to shoot for, and just really talk to the doctors. So I was afraid I wasn't producing enough. And they had originally told me in the hospital, because she was early, she is probably going to get tired quicker, like as far as sucking, she'll only be able to do that for so long. She'll fall asleep, her mouth, her jaws, everything will get tired, and she'll just stop, They wanted to ensure she would still get enough to eat and enough nutrients that they originally directed me to only have her feed for a maximum of 15 minutes, and usually 10 to 15 minutes. And usually that's how much you would normally do on one breast. And so I was only doing one essentially in the beginning. And it wasn't even for that long. She would probably only go 5 or 10. And then we would stop. It was a good stopping point. And then I would supplement formula in a bottle for her. And there's different tips and tricks, because that's kind of confusing if you think about it. Your breast nipple versus a bottle nipple. And that's one thing I would suggest. We got a variety pack, a starter pack of different bottles that have different nipples. They're all designed differently, baby bottles. And same with pacifiers, if you choose to do stuff like that. We didn't buy a set or register for a full, Dr. Brown set or, whatever sets. We got the little testers, and we tried the different bottles when we got home. And there's certain ones that just plain didn't work, or that the baby just plain didn't like. And I've heard even throughout, as the babies get older, sometimes they end up switching to a different brand because they like the nipples better or that bottle type better, and they really all different. So I thought it was pretty smart. And I really enjoyed being able to test the different ones and test that with my baby, me and my baby. Some of them were just too big around, short and fat and it just didn't feel comfortable to hold, and I'm like, like I said, some of them, she just didn't care for the nipple and she just wouldn't take the bottle very good. And so I think that really helped us. And same with the pacifiers. They're all shaped a little bit different. And they're all, different materials, and there's pros and cons to everything. I like to do a lot of research. I did a lot of research when I registered for a lot of things, and everyone's different. I just say, do your research, figure out what works for you. A lot of referrals, a lot of stuff from friends that had babies, was really, really good. Things that worked, things that didn't work, trying to get insight. So, so I produced enough in the beginning when she was eating, the smaller amounts, but my milk production didn't really increase. It's kind of just stayed the same. And they say the more you pump, the more your milk production. That'll help milk production, but it hasn't really helped me. I literally have pumped after every feeding. Every 3 hours, essentially, she would eat, and I would pump after every feeding. And it just hasn't increased. It's just really stayed the same. And yet she needs to increase the amount she's eating, right? And so, of course, we were supplementing. So I had asked the doctors about that, and they had said, well, make sure that you're pumping, after every time. I'm like, well, I am, and, all this stuff. And, I asked if there were one of my friends, the same thing happened to her, except she had no problems in the beginning, but then after a certain amount of months, she dried up. And she said, or she was drying up. And so then she took some of these supplements, different forms of supplements that are supposed to help with lactation and milk production, and they really helped her. And so I asked my doctor this last time. I went in for my 6-week checkup, and I asked if it was safe for me to do this, if this was okay, if this was, she said, oh yeah, I would definitely recommend if you're having issues or troubles or whatnot. And I showed her exactly the different kinds that I wanted, and she looked to make sure it was safe for me, safe for the baby, all that kind of stuff. And she said, yeah, try those. There is some medication that they can give that's supposed to help, that could potentially help, but there's other side effects that if you are still having problems. So she said she would like to use that as a very, very, very last resort, and hopefully not have to do that. So these others are more natural herbs and things like that that they use to make products, brownies, cookies, milkshakes, just actual herbal drops that you can put in all kinds. There's a whole different kind of combination, different products out there. And I literally just ordered some of those, and I started taking those 3 days ago. So I don't know if they're working quite yet, because it's supposed to take, I had read at least for some, and you're only supposed to take one product for like 5 days at a time before you introduce another product. And I ordered a couple of their products that I will be taking probably together eventually, but I kind of got to go through this little beginning stage thing. So I'm still supplementing, I'm still pumping, I'm still producing, just not enough for one feeding. So I have to supplement with formula for her. So I breastfeed, and I do 10 to 15 minutes on each boob now at this time. And then we stop after that and then bottle feed the rest. And let me tell you, she does get tired. And she will fall asleep. And sometimes and most of the time I can get her to wake up enough. I'll burp her, or I'll change her in the middle of a feeding, or there's different things, touch her feet. There's different things I can do, to try to get her to wake up enough to finish her feeding, to make sure she's getting and then just asking the doctors and Googling how much do they need to be eating typically right now. So we went in for, like I said, for her 1 month checkup, and she was just a tad underweight, they said. And I realized, I said, well, how much should she be getting? I was underfeeding her a little bit. And I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's different. The doctor said, no, it's okay. She goes, but let's make sure she's trying to they should typically be getting or eating, X amount. And so I need to try to make sure she tries to get that amount at every feeding. It doesn't always work, or sometimes you have feedings that are closer together, like that. I think, but man, she must be going through a growth spurt, because instead of eating every 3 to 4 hours, which is what she does right now, I fed her the other day, and it had only been 2 hours, and she was crying. And there's you'll figure out different cries, you'll figure out different things. She had already been changed and burped and all this, and she was hungry. She was doing all the signs and symptoms. They do this, and that's something I Googled too. And they give you a little sheet too, things to look out for, that babies will naturally, instinctively do certain things that is how they communicate, not just through their cries, but if they're hungry. Like they do this little running motion. When I hold her, she'll take her nose in her mouth, and she'll try to run for my boob, kind of, sort of. But even if it's my chest or my arm or whatever, she'll do that motion, and that's when I know she's hungry. She only does that when she's hungry. And I'm like, well, she can't be hungry. She just got fed an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. It's not even our 4-hour mark yet. Sure enough, I tried to feed her, and she needed more food.
Wow.
So you just, again, it's a trial and error thing, but I'd say that's the thing I struggle with the most. Am I feeding her enough? No. But again, those doctor's appointments will tell her she was in the 78th percentile for length, which I thought was crazy, because both me and my husband are short. And I'm like, what? She grew an inch and a half, 2 inches from when she was born, just in the first month. And I'm like, did they measure her right both times? But and same with her head circumference. I think she was in the 15th percentile, and her weight was the 14th percentile. So she's little, but not little. She was actually pretty. I mean, the doctors say they like them to be, if they can, 6 pounds or more. they're really, really tiny if they're less than that. My husband said when he was born, he was like almost 6, but he was like 5 pounds something. He was tiny. And I was a little baby. I was only like 6 pounds too, like just a little over 6. So, and then with her being early, but she was 6 pounds, 14 ounces when she was born. So
that's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So,
yeah. Well, I have to ask you the undying question is, do you think you're going to have more kids in your 40s?
Probably not. We haven't really decided officially, or, I mean, again, if it happens, it happens, but trying to plan for one, we're not planning on it right now. I'll be honest, with me and everything I went through for how long of a pregnancy and then ended up having the C-section and just all of that. Because I'll say I always wanted 2 kids. Ideally, I'd like to have like 1 girl. But after all that and everything and the high risk and having the preeclampsia and the gestational diabetes and sometimes the gestational diabetes stays with you. And luckily, mine did not, at least right now. I actually just had the glucose test done and I should be getting my results tomorrow to make sure it's officially gone. But just all of that stuff and everything and the length and all of that doesn't really want to make me have another one right now. And the exhaustion and everything. Don't get me wrong, they are worth it. She was totally worth it. But 1 is a lot and is enough right now. I'm still, again, still sleep deprived and all that. Be ready, lots of spit up and poopy diapers and peeing on you and throw up and all that. I mean, it's all real, everything they say. And not that it's not worth it, but not planning on it at this point. And who knows, that might change. But I think just because it was such a high risk and there was a lot of stuff that happened while I was in the hospital and how it all went down, I'm afraid it might be a little too risky for me the older I get. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, right? But we made it through the one and everyone's happy and healthy. And her little, they monitored her throughout the whole thing. Her little VSD, they have no detection of it. They can't hear a murmur. They can't hear anything. So we think that it's gone.
What a relief.
Yeah. And jaundice is a real thing too. We did have to go to the pediatrician the day after we were discharged, so she could have a follow-up with that. But she passed everything, being as early as she was, with flying colors. So, happy and healthy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it does seem like you recommend this planner, and I think I'm going to put it in the show notes below if anyone wants to check it out.
Yes, and there are a few other products. I don't need to go through them all right now, but I might give you that list. And if you want to put maybe some of there are a few products that I would highly, highly recommend that I feel like I probably couldn't live without, that, or at least that really, really helped us, that seemed really good quality or good price point or, whatever. There's a couple products for different things that I would recommend, and I'll give that to you too.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I can definitely put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And Misty, where can everyone find you?
I am probably best reached on Facebook.
Okay. And I guess what name do they want to search for that?
Searching for that would be Misty, Misty. Last name Swearingen. Swearingen.
Awesome. And I'll leave that in the show notes also. Misty, thanks for coming on. I miss you so much. You're so far away. And maybe we'll do a follow-up coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you for having me.